Good afternoon, everyone, and we want to welcome you to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation. It is 4 o'clock, and we are convening this meeting on Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, and we are now called to order. On the dais, we have Mr. Cox, Colonel Richardson, and Scott.
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie. I've done that more than once. Sorry, Scott. And Mr. McKenzie, and we want to welcome you all to this meeting. At this time, it is open public communication to the board. Would anyone like to address the board? Hearing no one, we're going to move on, and public communication is closed. Number 3A is to consider the approval of the minutes of the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation for the meeting of April the 8th. We've had a chance to peruse these minutes. Are there any comments, questions, or corrections? Hearing none, what is the wish of the board?
I'll make a motion. We approve the meetings as stated.
Thank you.
And I second.
Thank you. We have a motion by
Mr. McKenzie.
Mr. McKenzie. I was doing that one on purpose, Scott. Mr. McKenzie, and a second by Colonel Richardson to approve these minutes as presented. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Moving to 3B, we are going to consider the approval of the minutes of the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation special meeting. This was a workshop that we held on April 22nd, which on an editorial note, I will say I thought it was extremely productive, and thank you for your time. We've had a chance to peruse, once again, those minutes. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, what is the wish of the board?
I move to accept as written.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ron. We have a motion to approve these minutes and a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. We're now moving to point 4, which is our discussion and possible actions section. And 4A is to consider authorizing the payment to road safe traffic systems for street sign fabrication related to the downtown improvement plan. Stephen has communicated some information about this. Stephen, would you like to?
Yes, ma'am. Just briefly, what this will do is complete the sign inventory that was taken on a couple of years back. You may recall for Scott and Chris's just kind of education on this. Previously, the board funded the street signs and the stop signs and new black powder coated poles for the side streets along FM 518 that had a stop sign with the downtown colored street signs. Only at FM 518 and those intersections were done, and so what this will do is complete the inventory for all the streets and signage within the downtown district. So you go off a block or two, and I have you can kind of see it there. That is the example. Most of those galvanized poles are silver, and the hardware is silver. In this instance, when we went back and redid the signs a couple of years ago, we went ahead and did the powder coated so we could match the mast arms that were placed by TxDOT. You may be able to see it up on your screen or one of these other screens a tad bit bigger. The X marks a spot there with all the intersections and signs that are going to have to be completed in this go-round.
And it comes to a total cost of?
$3,779.70. This vendor is on buy board. If you're not familiar with the buy board, it's just kind of a cooperative with vendors that have been vetted. And so this price is going to be basically similar to any other price that you would get from a very similar vendor. We use them as a city. We use them often. And so in this instance, just a tad under $3,800 will complete the project. And this is within the spirit of the downtown improvement plan as part of the sign package that was included.
And just to remind you, that is one thing we discussed at the workshop on the 22nd, that was a purpose that we wanted to complete that signage. And so Stephen thankfully moved forward with that. Any comments or questions?
Do you have
Ron?
one question? I think I know the answer to this, but was this part of any earlier package that was approved by the council, or does this need to go to the council for approval?
So as the expenditure will have to go to council for approval. The signage, the color, and the location of signs and that type of, those types of items, that was all approved back in 2017, 2018 with the overall downtown improvement plan.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, what is the wish of the board on this action item?
I move approval for item A, expenditures for street signs, poles, and stop signs to complete the district signage for $37,7970, and a recommendation to the council for their approval.
It's a very complete recommendation. I second.
Good job, Ron. Thank you. It was an
Glad
excellent
it's up
summary.
on the screen.
Very complete.
Well, but very nice. Thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. And are there any other comments or questions? Hearing none.
One quick question, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
What's the total time required to get this done? Just estimate.
Fabrication and installation with these, we should have it done within 4 to 6 weeks. So this is
After the council approves the expenditure?
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes 4-0. Thank you. 4B is to consider authorizing the payment to Bay Area Signs and Electrical LLC for wayfinding and gateway signage related to the downtown improvement plan. Once again, this was another part of our discussion on the 22nd that we wanted to move forward with what was in the plan. And Stephen?
Yes, ma'am. Great intro there. These are related to the downtown improvement plan, to the signing appendix, or to the sign appendix, sorry. These will replace the existing signs that are in the median and add 2 more kind of at the bookends, as has been mentioned previously. I did put the example of the existing sign up there really just to show that one has some wayfinding where it does depict the location of the Rotary Pavilion. That type of information is going to stay present on the new signage, so we're not going to be taking away from any of the features of downtown that are currently highlighted in our signage. It's just going to go to the new sign. And this will be in 4 locations in the medians downtown. The total cost of all 4 signs, its fabrication, and all the way through the installation turnkey is $15,674.80.
Will these be installed by the signage company or will they be installed by the city?
These will be done by the signage company turnkey.
Thank you.
And they're the same on both sides?
Of the
The sign.
yes,
So if I'm driving this way,
in most locations, you cannot see the way the signs are currently positioned. You cannot see the back of the signage, just given their location in the medians. If that does change, then yes, we will make sure that both sides are visible with the same information.
seems like a missed opportunity to me. So I only get the sign if I'm going east. You know, why? Why wouldn't we make sure the sign was readable in either direction?
Given the locations of the current signage, so if you take the bookend approach.
Well,
we-
coming in from the
Correct.
edges of downtown, I get that. But the edges of downtown were more of the stand-up things that we were talking about. That's not part of this, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, for this much money, a one-way sign, in my mind, isn't a good value as much as find somewhere else to put it that is visible from both directions.
We can definitely we can definitely take a look at it and see, given the current location of the existing signs, that's what was, it was modeled after. Those are only on one side.
I understand.
If the board would like us to go back and visit with the vendor potentially about doing two sides, it may be moving. It may not be all signs could have the double face depending on the location, but it's definitely something that if you would like us to take back, we can go visit with the vendor.
I think I would like you to ask that question. I mean, I'm one of four here today, but I'm not going to stop progress on this if it goes back to what's the priority, getting them out there after 7 or 8 years, or getting them right the first time when we finally got around to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's talk about it.
Well, I think it's worth investigating, because if we just haven't had that in the past, we were going off the plan, and the plan had them going really just one way. And so if it's something we want to consider, or have the signage company in the city consider doing, how quickly do we get bids back from this company?
This company we can work with very easily. If the board is open to, and I don't know it because I don't know all locations just at the back of my hand, if the board is open to potentially some landscaping improvements potentially. Again, if this is a want on all four signs on all four sides, there may be the need to remove some existing landscaping that was placed in the medians. So that could be an additional cost that's not borne out here in this estimate. I just want to make sure that we're all, anything I can kind of think of off the top of my head, I'm going to let you know.
Yeah.
We can go back, we can get something fairly quickly. We do, we have a meeting planned for next month and a workshop coming up at some point. So if we would like to hold on with this item and workshop it a little bit further and get another quote, we can definitely do that. And it gives us time to go take a look and see what's in the medians would have to be potentially removed or altered. That's not a problem.
That was my thought. I was thinking about like that Rotary Pavilion sign right there. Well, right back here.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely blocked from anybody heading south.
Correct.
And I don't know if, like you said, either removing the landscaping or maybe possibly having two signs, one for each direction. I don't know what the answer is.
We could definitely visit with the vendor, and I'll visit with the Parks Department, and that kind of maintains those areas, or takes the direction on maintaining those areas, and we'll come up with a solution that I think you guys, or a couple of options that you guys can consider, maybe in a workshop, and then we'll send it back to the vendor, and we'll see what pricing comes back.
Yeah, I think we'd have a hard time answering a citizen's question about why we didn't make them both directions, and all we had to do was remove a bush, especially for this much money. And again, once you've done it on both sides, you're done. You're done. You don't have to come back and go, I need another sign, where people going the opposite direction.
And right now, the back of the sign would just be plain orange, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'd kind of like to see the option of having it done both sides.
Yeah, I agree.
mean, what is,
Yeah, like you can do it, like you said, Chris. We've been waiting 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can wait a little more. Nobody's dying to have them, but I think we would have some pretty significant criticism, and well-deserved if we didn't at least consider it.
thank you, Stephen.
So what are the 4 locations? Remind me of what.
So there's the bookends, one where the rotary sign is now currently. There'll be one installed coming from FM 2351 into downtown in the first grassy median. So if you're coming in, it's right around Captain's Corner, a little bit past Captain's Corner. There's one currently over by Chase Bank in that median section between Chase Bank and French Church.
Yeah, it says something about it's a Friends Church.
Mm-hmm. And then there is a fourth one that escapes me, and I couldn't find it because it got run over by a truck. So it is not currently there.
Even greater reason to do new ones.
Yes, ma'am. And since we will be looking potentially to workshop this, I'll put together a quick site map just to show you the actual locations.
Yeah, and so, okay, if we're going to kind of expand the thought process here, why just replace those? Why not look at additional locations if needed? I mean, use our imagination a little bit and see where those additional where that additional signage might be needed.
How
as
many,
well.
how many Esplanades are there going down through the city?
FM 518 has ample room given the size of the sign. It's just dependent on how many locations that the board and how many potential items of public interest that the board may want
Yeah.
to point out.
Yeah.
No, I think it's just as much about branding as it is about public interest.
Right.
I agree.
So it's driving down Friendswood Drive, 518, one every other Esplanade wouldn't be a bad thing. Because to your point is why not let's brand the crap out of it if we're going to brand it, or at least consider it. But in terms of our total budget or our total money on hand, we can afford to do this right the first time.
Right.
Exactly.
I think I have enough direction. I can take it back and we'll begin working through it, and we'll see if we can get some mock-ups either to present at the next meeting or at a workshop, so we can maybe pick and choose locations, pick and choose items.
One thing I'm,
Post office.
at the post
The other
office.
was
Post office. There we go.
But, you know, even if it didn't mark some location or something of significance, I'm gonna drive down 518 and look at the Esplanades now and see how frequently we would like one. We might like one of those branded in every Esplanade, not just to mark where something is, just for that consistency as you drive down the street.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
I'm sure some of the other members of the group will be driving down 518 with a
Yeah.
new perspective.
There's a balance in there someplace.
There is.
You know, one every Esplanade may be more than we can justify, but who knows?
Depends.
Yeah.
Now, who designs, excuse me?
20 Esplanades from
20?
2351 to 5, basically to the entrance of Stevens. So some are smaller, some are big.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I just kind of want to add some kind of grass or vegetation.
Interesting.
So,
I'll bring you back a plan.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for all those suggestions, guys. This is the way we come to what we think is best for branding and making our downtown very special. So we're going to move on to 5 work session topics, which is discussion regarding future Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation projects. I asked Stephen to do this to update us. Do you remember the list that Aubrey created with 1s, 2s, and 3s and where we were? And so Stephen is just going to kind of give us an update on where we are.
Yes, ma'am. So on some of these, as you can tell, we were moving forward even just this afternoon on some of the street signage completion and the downtown welcome signage completion. One of the items that members Richardson and Mr. Cox here can visit with the board about is going to be any updates potentially to the improvement plan. One of the items that was of note was that some downtown sidewalk extensions to venture off of FM 518. I've tasked our engineering department to go ahead and have someone start making an inventory of areas so we can figure out exactly what links and what any kind of impediments we might have that would incur some significant costs. Once we can get some kind of exhibit put together where we know length of sidewalk and what it would take, we can start looking at potential prices and bring something back for consideration. Along with that was additional lighting potentially on some of those side streets. And also additional lighting for areas that were not impacted with the downtown illumination project that's ongoing, Friends Church namely, and then there's a couple of other areas that due to numerous factors just weren't considered. The big one though being Friends Church, they did reach back out and they do want to have a conversation. I've mentioned before that conversation we kind of set the limit on that of once this project is completed here, that we could visit with them more openly about exactly what it would take to get lighting or uplighting for their trees, along with potential sidewalks or something to travel across the front of their property. The overhead wire relocation, which is always a topic. I've had extensive conversations with both the main players, AT&T and Comcast. While they're more than willing, again, to bury it on their own, they're still not willing to make any kind of concession that nothing will go back on the overhead power lines. And then new information that they've passed along is that they would, well, one company, Comcast, passed along, is that they would much rather be part of an overall project instead of just kind of a onesie twosies, because they don't want to be on top of each other when they go in. And rightfully, he did point out that once they go and AT&T goes, downtown is liable to be tore up for a little while with the different levels of construction on burying of their communication lines. So it's just something to think about as we move forward. I've asked our engineering department to work with, or to start researching for companies that can do, that will provide us an estimate for a plan to bury the communication lines all together as one large project, and to get us a cost back on what we think that would be in order for them to put together an engineered plan to show how they plan on burying everything. I've asked them to turnkey so they can visit with all the stakeholders that are up there. That way we know exactly the size of the conduit or the duct bank that's going to have to be installed potentially. And so once we get a cost for the plan, and if the board does decide to move forward, then that will help provide an overall engineer's cost estimate on what it would take to install the duct bank and then potentially have the communication companies bury their lines as well. I did visited with Chief Rogers, visited with him about future projects, thought about public safety. Call boxes have been brought up previously. I did talk to Dr. Hillenberg about call boxes and to the chief. He did mention that the call boxes have now kind of gone to the wayside since everyone has a cell phone these days. But that if we were looking for any type of public safety facilities or anything downtown, what he did bring up was the potential for flock cameras. We do have these in other areas of town, and many of your subdivisions may have them at the entrances or the exits. They're basically license plate readers that we share with numerous cities all over the Houston metro area. That if you're doing something bad and your license plate is entered into the system, this will flag the PD here and in other municipalities on when that car or vehicle enters your city limits or exits. And so those are something that we use kind of to proactively kind of fight crime and that kind of in that vein. And then also intersection monitoring cameras. There are no cameras downtown on the intersections. And so just as some potential pricing, the flock cameras were looked at about $2,500 a year per camera. Then that's a turnkey. And then the intersection improvements are anywhere between $8,000 and $12,000. And what that does is take video of the intersection and send it back to dispatch so they have an eye on what's taking place. That's a one-time cost per intersection of about $8,000 to $12,000 probably, but you do run into technology and wear on the equipment, so it will have to be redone at some point. Nothing to do today with that, just putting a bug in y'all's ear for the next workshop potentially. If y'all have any further questions on it, you can let me know, and Chief is glad to come speak to the group if that's something that is preferred. And I'll go back to, if there's no questions here on these items.
Yeah, on this one particularly, at first I was kind of thinking, wow, how would that be a benefit? But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, wow, would it not lend to the public safety of the downtown area? Are those real-time cameras? In other words, if somebody parks in Stevenson Park who's not supposed to be there, that will alert PD immediately?
So just as an example, just a week or two ago, there was a gentleman that took it upon himself to rob a bank here in town. Thought he was going the back way out of town, which I'm not quite sure how the back way is. But it was his license plate was captured on a flock camera in a subdivision. And as he made it out of town, I want to say he made it to League City, or he made it into the Houston area, and he was picked up within the hour because it's not just Friendswood that has these, it's other communities. Right. A lot of this is just they can piece together on the direction, and they can piece together on if you did do something bad at Stevenson Park and you left, they know if you went left or right when you took off, they know when you got to League City, or they know when you enter the city. And then due to some of the new legislation and with these cameras, they can now tell you if a car comes in or leaves without plates at all. So if somebody removed the plates to potentially do something, then you'll be notified as well. These are being used more and more. One, just because of they're not very costly per year. A lot of residential subdivisions, HOAs have taken it upon themselves to install them, and it's just one of the other items that we do use.
I think this was an excellent recommendation by Chief Rogers. And I think it's something we really, when we get a chance to just talk, really need to consider as another layer
Yeah.
to help and that was the purpose of discussing safety downtown.
Mhm.
What layers do we need? And I think this is one we need to consider.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if the city's pursuing this outside of the downtown area? Is anybody else in Friendswood doing this?
Oh yes, these are
other than private organizations.
Yes, no, the city has multiple entry points. They're so, you can see the flock camera here. The easiest example, like this one was taken off of Google Street View, but this one's on the way to Pearland, just down 518. And these are located multiple places across town. Not just in HOAs, not just in subdivisions, but on by the city on city streets.
But not downtown.
Currently, there is not any downtown. There's one coming in from Pearland. The beauty of these is they catch you both ways, and so you can install one, and you can get both a northbound, southbound, east and west. There's one there. There's one coming in on Whispering Pines. Ultimately, the more that you have, the more coverage you have to know directional.
Yeah.
But there are no flock cameras downtown at the moment.
I only ask because in our future discussions, my question will be: is this an inherently city issue, or not?
Well, and my kind of quick thought on this, Chris, is that if this is a way our funds can benefit the downtown and the city, then perhaps that's a good use of our funds for the greater good.
That's not my argument.
I know it, but that's mine.
I
I mean, that's
understand.
my point.
And then I will go back and defer to Mr. Richardson and Mr. Cox here. They did send over their proposed updates that they collaborated on to the downtown improvement plan with the vision, mission, and the objectives portions. I put a copy at everybody's place at the dais. This is, if they would like to visit with it, my intent here was to make sure everybody had a copy, and if you guys would like to talk about kind of what y'all got into, and then if we wanted a have a workshop with this at a later date, then we could do that with the entire board.
Thanks, Stephen. That was totally the intent from the very beginning. So Ron and I were tasked to go put our heads together as old guy, new guy, and take a look at what we had with respect to the plan and its objectives. So right up front, we're going to hold on to the vision and the mission statement as printed in the plan. I think that's very important. I know that if Trey was here, he would absolutely demand that we not change a word from the plan with respect to the vision and the mission, and I think that's fine. My confusion and inputs during our last workshop when this was brought up was the subject specifically of goals versus objectives and what do they mean and how are they measured. So our efforts as we approached this was to take the mission and assume for the rest of the exercise that a mission and a goal were exactly the same thing. This is my mission, this is my goal. We don't need to include a layer of verbiage or what have you that creates more confusion, if you will. So if your mission today is to communicate, engage with Friendswood, make well-planned strategic decisions, and exercise fiduciary responsibility, each of those mission statements, mission requirements, requires objectives to measure whether or not you're doing it. So following those objectives, they're numbered as per the mission statements or mission tasks above. Went through and kept a lot of the verbiage from the first go-round, redistributed it between goals and objectives, and put it in a measurable form. So if you pick any one, let's go with C, 2C, which is making well-planned and strategic recommendations to the council regarding improvements to the downtown district, one of the objectives would be to promote downtown activities for all members of the community to foster camaraderie and cohesion. So when we get back around to measuring ourselves, like, did we or did we not promote downtown activities? If that just means we're talking about them or we're participating in them or whatever, then we can say yes. And then we go, now we know whether or not we're meeting the objectives that are part of, as such, defined by the mission statements. This is incomplete because it requires another level. Now, you've unfortunately employed a military planner, which will go as many levels as we can.
As we'll let you.
As we let you. But there's things that should attach to each of these objectives that are called key performance parameters. And those are truly yes or no's. And they go one step further into your planning process. So anyone could say, again, we use 2C, well, how are you going to promote those? Or how are you going to capitalize? Or how are you going to identify? All the first words of the objectives are purposefully broad. The further you go into the plan, the more specific the details become. And so it requires that kind of revisit or reconsideration or further discussion. But you should have key performance parameters, or we'll call them whatever we want, but that's what the planning people do, that go with each of the objectives that make it very easy to both decide how you're going to meet those objectives and whether you are or not. And so we submit this for your consideration, absolutely a workshop discussion that goes forward. But our intent was to have this document something that we could hold ourselves to, report to the public, and measure our performance against. And the previous document didn't do that.
And you guys did a great job, and you're right. This seems to be much more specific to what we're trying to accomplish, and it makes it measurable, more measurable. But you're right, those bottom layers are parts that we might want to talk about, how we want to put those in.
This is the straw man. This is where we start. And we can go as deep as you want, or stop here. But the question is always going to be, well, how are you going to do that? And then you need to have an answer to that question.
Or what does it look like?
Yeah, what does that mean?
So if you backed up to those projects, any one of those projects can sit within this.
Yeah, they fall under some objective.
Yeah, as a performance indicator. So it's not complicated to get to those performance items. What you did, I appreciate Chris ran with this. He took the ball. I told him we were going to talk about how we struggled with it. We worked for hours on it, but the truth is that Chris actually is the drafter, and I'm the. I just put a few I's and put a few dots and word changes on it, but he did a great
Yeah,
job.
the Times New Roman 12 point kind of gives it away.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not worried about giving it away. We appreciate the effort, truly. And even if you were in Missouri, it's okay.
Oh, no,
Because-
I was already back from Missouri.
Oh, okay,
was
okay,
waiting
but
for
it's
my phone
okay,
call.
Rob. We know the quality of both of your work,
Well,
and
and
we
actually, thank you
appreciate
again to
it.
Stephen going, hey fellas, weren't you supposed to do something?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
We were supposed to do something.
It looks good, guys. I mean, it's like when we had that work session. I mean, it's aligned. I think a lot more
Right,
of what our discussion.
right. And it's a one-pager. It's something that
Oh,
if anybody says, what's your mission and objectives? Here they are. What are your specific projects? Then we can add that with time as well.
well, this is a great communication tool,
Right.
you know, because it tells people who we are, what we are, keeps council informed, and I agree completely. I think it's a workshop item. We all want to read it, and we're not going to wordsmith it. We're just going to read it.
Yeah.
But in just quickly glancing at it, I appreciate your work very much.
You're welcome. And it's keeping us accountable.
Right,
Um,
and that's our job.
yeah, it is.
That's our job. So one of the things, gentlemen, we may need to discuss, and we may have to do this via email, is for dates for workshops. So just kind of put that in the back of your mind as we get near the end of the meeting. And
Well, I would recommend that you don't invite me because I'll refuse to change anything about that. The pride of ownership will take
so
over.
when are you out of town? When are you out
I'm
of
kidding,
town,
I'm
Chris? No.
It's perfect the way it is.
Yeah. Well, and
Ron said so.
Yeah.
did he? He put the
did.
check mark there.
I
Good.
had to erase all the red letters, but
They didn't copy well anyway. So just kind of keep that, please. But since we do have 3 people that aren't here, it may be hard to
Right.
kind of set a date.
Right.
And we are in the middle of summer, so that I don't want to put it off. I want to get it done. But do you want to talk about a date now? Do we want to,
If it's easier, knowing that folks are out, and then knowing the summer and the vacation, what I'll do is after this meeting, I'll shoot out an email with some dates prior to the next meeting to see if we can facilitate something, and then I'll just take an inventory of everybody and we'll see what matches up,
perfect.
and we'll see what we can come up with.
That's using our time efficiently.
Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Stephen. Okay, there was one more thing in that list, because we all had our list from the meeting, straightening the poles. Did I
It's all about me, apparently.
am I pouring salt in the wound? I'm sorry, but no, we need to keep things in front of us.
I did see where Centerpoint is starting a big project. Of course, I know we're out of their realm, but they're starting a big project throughout Houston of replacing those poles, and it immediately made me think about ours.
Yeah, with synthetics or
Yeah.
So there's no real new information on straightening the poles. We do have some meetings on other subjects coming up with Texas New Mexico Power, namely some of the streetlights downtown that we'll hit on here in just a moment. But that we'll make sure to mention, especially some of the few that are absolutely noticeable just by, with everything else around it.
it's just yell safety. We are concerned for the safety of our citizens.
Yes, sir.
And keep saying that until they do something. And you can go, it's going to be on you. It's going to be on you. It's going to be on you. And then get the lawyer involved.
I think hey, Stephen, I think you have direction.
Yes, ma'am. I have plenty of direction.
It's going to be on you.
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Certainly.
Or a clarification, actually, on the overhead wire
Yes, sir.
relocations? Did I hear you correctly that the two main players, AT&T and
Comcast. Yes, sir.
have neither one agreed to not put wires overhead after this whole project?
Correct. They will.
yeah,
They will
so
let
I'm-
you. They will. What they've. And I apologize for interrupting. What they've told me on the phone and via email is basically that while they would not intend to put anything back, that if something is put underground, their intent would be to, if something did happen to it, they would replace it underground, but that they would not be able to commit to never putting anything back on the poles.
Okay, that's a little different than what we heard last month. Maybe I just heard what I wanted to hear last month.
So unfortunately, that's kind of been we've narrowed them down to that,
To that, okay.
and that has been their stance for the last few months.
Okay. I just
The
missed it.
furthest that they've gotten is if you do bury it and something does break and need to be repaired, it will be replaced wherever we found it, but that they would not commit to not going back.
Any other comment, Ron?
Oh, no.
I know. But we can still be squeaky wheels.
Yeah, I don't see why we would take that project off of this list because of that. And I guess maybe our discussion ought to be how far do we want to go with that looming out there. It's always loomed out there. And I guess I had just misunderstood what you said earlier and it was wishful thinking on my part that they would have a separate agreement not to put the wires back up.
Yes, sir. They have not.
But they have not agreed to
They have not indicated that they would move in that direction, and I will try to be more clear with it. What I've tasked our engineering department to do is to go ahead and try to find a consultant that can help us out with the plan. Now that plan is going to involve burying the communication lines, not necessarily not the power lines, but the communication lines.
Right.
And what that'll do, that's going to be a 5 to 6 figure cost most likely just to put the plan together because of the engineering that's going to have to take place to put everything underground. When that's done, if the board chooses to move in that direction and fund that, we will be able to get an engineer's estimate on what it would take for a total relocation of those. And so I can come back to you with a figure, and then you can potentially make a decision based upon that figure on whether or not burying everything with kind of we kind of promised not to go back up there, but I'm not going to absolutely promise. And if that's something that the board's willing to move forward with.
Yeah. So, and on this new plan, I guess, or this direction
Yes, sir.
that you're talking about today, would the city actually own the conduit? Would the city actually build, install, own the conduit, and then the utilities would locate in that by agreement?
Correct.
Okay. And what would that agreement, would it be a license agreement? What would that agreement look like? Do you know?
We'll have to take a look, because they have,
Friend.
yeah, they have different, they're governed by different statutes and stuff,
Statutes,
so we
yeah.
need to take a look at each one. and see.
Yeah, I guess.
And I will point out
I
that
know
it's,
I'm working the deal a little bit too hard here, but for this level, but I guess I just want to make sure conceptually that we understand kind of what the tract would be, as opposed to one of the original thoughts was, we'll just pay you to go bury your lines.
Mhm.
That's different.
Correct.
What you're talking about is different now.
and some of this is based upon conversations with AT&T and Comcast, and given just how disturbed the downtown district would
And
be
complex.
for a length of time
Yeah.
and complex.
Yeah.
They are Comcast at least is a tad bit. Sorry, AT&T is a tad bit worried too, just because they know what's underneath FM 518 in the right of way and how busy it is.
Yeah.
So while they will happily do it, it could be more expensive. That's why they want money up front to go ahead and do the plan on their side. Comcast just went ahead and said, we'll do it for $865,000 or whatever it was. And AT&T's taken a more measured approach to say, well, we understand that there's a whole lot under there, but then we also know that if Comcast does it and then we do it, we're going to be on top of each other. And then rightfully so pointed out that that side of the street is going to be disturbed for however long it takes for both companies to work around each other. So in those conversations, that's when we got into the visiting about just having a uniform duct bank or big conduit underneath where everyone can place their lines. And ultimately, even once that is put into place, albeit cheaper, AT&T and Comcast will still have to be paid to put their lines underground.
Yeah.
So this is having the experts run those traps for us and come back with a plan, and to at least give us an amount that can be considered.
So, yeah, and so when we talk about how busy the right-of-way is, that's probably, I can't imagine what's all's under there in that very narrow area. And I think one of the things we threw out, or I threw out one day was, well, why don't we put the duct bank somewhere else and just let them move the lines to a different location as well. So if the engineer could have kind of carte blanche, a very broad scope to look not only at the right of way, but other rights of way that would transmit that would allow those lines to go in different locations, that would be good too. It may end up being cheaper to completely move the duct bank a block back, for example.
Yes, sir.
You may not physically have room to put the size of bank that you need in that small area, it seems to me.
And it might also be more not as disruptive to
Yeah.
move it back
Yeah.
in the
So-
long run.
Yeah, and so I pointed that way, but this way is just as good. A block this way, less population, less dense area, more wide open right of way, all kinds of advantages to going, just saying, okay, just don't go that way. Just go another way.
And Stephen, I appreciate you going to the engineering department and throwing out the idea of finding a consultant, finding someone that could, bring us a plan, because we've been kind of floundering with this one, but our goal is to get those lines down. And I know that's been a goal for 20 years.
60 years.
Yeah, I was 60 years, thank you. Probably since they went up,
Yes, ma'am.
but thank you. Any other comments, questions about that, any of these items?
Well, just one other, I guess. You know, when just as a kind of reflecting on the location of our street lights has exacerbated the problem, but the location of the street lights was specified by TxDOT, where we originally had those street lights out on just immediately behind the curb. There wasn't going to be quite as much conflict, but when they said move those street lights behind the sidewalk, that put them right under the wiring, which has kind of created the view, at least, that we currently have. So I wish that we I don't think that would have stopped us from doing the street lights. We just have been given a set of circumstances that we're just kind of not pushing down the road, but we're dealing with one step at a time, given all of those requirements that have been placed on us. I'm just kind of reflecting about that a little bit.
Ron, you just brought up another question that I have, and Stephen, I know you don't have an answer, but it's something as we get down the road we may need to include, is does TxDOT have any power or any, thank you, good word, I was going more to the negative, influence in what we can or cannot bury within so many feet of that road? I just don't know. I don't expect you to know, but it's a question I have.
Yes, ma'am. Great question.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments? We are going to discuss the illumination project report down a little bit, so I know we're all anxious to hear about that as well.
Yep.
Any other further discussion on the projects we discussed at the workshop? Hearing none, let's move to the reports. And we'd like to go to 6A, which is to receive and discuss the Keep Friendswood Beautiful Electrical Box Artwork Project report.
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated you have pictures.
I do. So, and this is item 5. I apologize. This is item 6. So far we have 3 boxes that have been completed. You've probably seen there's others that are kind of always in flux, either with being primed or cleaned up. And as the weather holds and one of these gets kicked off, they'll get out there and take care of it as weather permitting. And I did send an email, I think, to the board regarding the KFB social media thank you and recognition. They were very appreciative and put together a nice post on Facebook and their Instagram pages, thanking the board for the funding of the boxes. It was very nice of them. So this is one that was the first one that was kicked off right here down by the chamber. Beautifully done. And this is right across the street from the library. And then we have, where is this? One's right across the street from Chase Bank on Clearview, I believe.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they are.
And
It's a great project that KFB brought to us.
It's a great project. It's very, it's amazing, at least to me, just how fast that they can do it. It kind of, I used to think I could draw. So
Yeah.
Now we're here.
Yep.
Will the Eagle, you think, be finished by 4th of July?
I suspect it will. I think there's
Great.
plenty of time, as long as the weather holds. Again, they go out in the way that you can tell that they've done this multiple times. And so by the time they get some of the background done, you give it another day or two, and all of a sudden the entire box is complete, and it's just kind of amazing.
They're great.
Yeah, they are. They're very nice.
Any other comments or questions about that? All right, let's move to 6B, which is to receive and discuss the FM518 illumination project report.
Yes, ma'am. So we are progressing. Pfeiffer & Sons is progressing on some of the remaining poles, and our engineering department is working on some of the easements still. Thankfully, and Trey's not here for me to thank him in person, but he did reach out to a couple of the folks that he knows personally to see if we can get their assistance. In the last 24 hours, we have gotten 3 additional ones signed, and so those hopefully will be, one was due just not to be able to, we couldn't get in touch with folks, which we finally did. and one was due to a driveway conflict that we were able to work out with the property owner, and so we had to just get a small easement in order to kind of shift the pole a tad bit. The board did approve some infrastructure installation from TNMP, and council approved it in May. We're still waiting on that. That is the main reason why the City Hall side of FM 518 has not yet been energized and tested. We're waiting on those boxes to be installed. We are bugging TNMP constantly to get out there to see if we can do anything to help facilitate. If I do need some help from the board, I will definitely reach out. We do anticipate if we can get TNMP to install their infrastructure that we should have 95% of all of the installed lighting to be energized by July 4th. So while the fireworks will be in a different location, at least when you're on your way home, potentially you can have the lights. I did put a picture up here. I think I sent this to the board previously. This is on the other side of FM 518 next to Friendswood Chiropractic Office. The lights themselves are very nice in the evening if you get a chance to drive down. And they're always, I think these may be continuously on now. There's others that are in different levels of testing overnight, and Fire and Sons will come back out in the morning and make any adjustments that they need to. So you'll catch different sections of town or of downtown on and off every evening.
Great.
Did this plan include coordination with other, with tenants along the street to remove their lights so that we had a uniform?
Yes.
I've never heard anyone talk about that as part of the project.
So I apologize, not as part of this project.
Okay.
So the intent was once this project was complete, there would be an additional, if you would, an additional phase afterwards to go. And there are some private property owners that have already made their intent to remove them, some on their own, just to go ahead and remove them and use their lights elsewhere. Others that are in the right-of-way, it had been the intent of the board to put together a project on removing those and eliminating some of the existing lights that were downtown, either owned by TNMP or some of the private property owners potentially, if they were in the right-of-way, and returning some of the conditions back to normal, removing the light itself, removing the base, and then capping off the electrical. So that is something that will be brought back. The intent was always, once this project was completed, to move in that direction.
Yeah. To instate a uniform set of lights. is
Correct.
what
Correct.
And I noticed that City Hall's lights have been removed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I saw the blank base out there
Yes, sir.
just
Yeah.
today.
The ones in front of City Hall and then in front of Stevenson Park have all been removed. The previous poles have all been removed, so we could have the new poles to kind of more on display. A funny story, James Toney is our parks director, is a very, very fast individual, played college football, still a very fast individual. I've never seen him run as fast as the other day when they took one of these downs and they still had one of the Hometown Heroes banners on it.
Oh.
But he did make it to the trailer in time, and we ended up with our banner back and our pole, so everything worked out well in the end, but he is still a very fast individual, just to point that out.
Still right.
Right.
So the only area that I'm thinking about that seems to be a blank area is in front of Hometown Bank. What's the story on that one?
So that area, specifically once TxDOT gave us the direction that we had to move the poles further back.
Yeah.
If you notice the way that their lot is increases in height, and that right of way is very narrow, as where it starts to narrow downtown. That area was omitted from this part of the plan, just based upon the cost, the extent of the landscaping that they currently have. And then you may recall, because they have their own uniform lighting in front,
Right.
that was something that we would go back and look at later on.
Okay.
Hometown Bank, I've visited with them previously regarding it, mostly at that point about removing their existing lighting, which they didn't have an issue with. But then once we determined that these lights couldn't just go in as planned previously, that we would hold off and bring something back.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen. Any other comments or questions?
Nope.
I
Okay,
think they look good.
they do look good. 6C is to receive and discuss the downtown business update.
There's been one new business in downtown, although there has been some other movement on a few buildings downtown. The one that's come in this last month is Rosa Branch Dermatology, 308 South Friendswood, for an alteration to an existing building. Forget the name of it, but lovingly known as the Green Building down
Yes.
there has been, some of the work has been taken care of. Some of the trees have been removed, and that site is getting cleared up. And then where, I may have mentioned previously, where the previously Jaddo's was right down the street here, Cooper's Landing has made permit to go in and reestablish that as a restaurant space here in the near future.
Do you know any kind of calendar on that? Any timeline?
I'm gonna defer to Aubrey, who knows all the things. It was supposedly the beginning of May, and we are well past that. So
It's okay, just being nosy. They may wish yesterday, so it's all good. But they have permits, so that's moving forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Any other comments about any activity in downtown?
So when you mentioned the green building, which one were you talking about?
Bayou
Bayou
Gardens.
Gardens. Okay, so is all that gonna be raised? It's gonna be torn down?
Yes, sir.
Good. Look, that'll be promising. We ought to.
I think what is being proposed is that lot and a few others will be used as a kind of a bigger or larger center. But until something's submitted,
Yeah.
we'll bring, if we hear of anything that's more concrete in nature. But we do know that the site's being cleaned up and
Yeah.
that the building is supposed to come down.
Yeah, great.
I think there may be combining 3 lots for redevelopment.
Yeah, those are really small. Yeah.
Subjected to D.
Yeah, let's see.
I had to stop for a minute. What are you
yes.
talking about? Objective 2D,
2D.
okay, yes. Okay. Any other comments about business update? Thank you, Stephen. 6D is to receive and discuss the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation financial report
Yes, ma'am.
as of May.
For May, we did have a beginning fund balance right over $2.8 million with a revenue of $73,933 for the month. We did have $204,591 in expenditures, along with the monthly $1,334 for staff services. There's an ending fund balance for May 2025, $2,688,245, with an unencumbered fund balance of $2,593,426. Most of that outstanding is the downtown lighting project, and then there's a small amount for the electrical art box project.
Well, that should cover the Christmas decorations, but just barely.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what to say after that, Chris. That was
That's
sounding
doing great. Well done.
It is
Congratulations.
Doing, it is doing great. It is. Thank you. Any other comments or questions about anything? Our next meeting is July 15th, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Oops, I put July 8th, but I am
Oh, no.
probably
Okay, that's why I'm
incorrect.
confirming.
Let's check.
It may be July 8th,
It is a
because it's the second
Tuesday. It is the 8th. Yes, ma'am.
July 8th. And Stephen will be communicating with us about the potential for a workshop.
Absolutely.
I think those workshops have been very productive for the group, and I appreciate everyone's added time for another meeting. Okay, any other comments or questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Yep, it is 8th, already on my calendar. Thanks, Stephen.